Hello guys, Tango here, and we're back with some more Doll's Nest post-game builds. So before we begin, I would like to remind you guys to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Help support the channel. So without further ado, let's get started. So this build is going to be the Scarlet build. This build is based off of Scarlet from Nikke, Goddess of Victory. Or rather, Goddess of Victory, Nikke. And yeah, there's not much to say about this build, but before I say any more, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this. So for our mobility module, we'll be running the Takuma. For the headset module, we'll be running the Takuma again. For the hanger module, we'll be running the valves. For the thruster module, we'll be running the third. For the utility module, we'll be running the Kuramitsuhas. For our primary arms 1, we'll be running the Sabi. And for our primary arms 2, we'll be running the Magatsu. And for the rear arms, we'll be running absolutely nothing because this is going to be mostly a melee build, or rather, entirely a melee build. If you're running what face I'm running, I'll be running the Nog. I'll be running the LSC for the back hair. I'll be running the GAL for the front hair. And I'll be running the Nagara Prototype Assault Armor humanoid form for the body. And just to get this out of the way, I'm going to be showing you all the values I'm using for all the colors here. So bear with me for a moment. And for the colors for the frame, there's not much different between the rest of the frame altogether, but there is one change. But before I show that off, I'll show you the values for the entire frame. And here's the value for the inner I'm using right now. But there is one difference between the inner for the rest of the frame versus the inner for the thruster modules. For the thruster modules, I'm using these values for the inner. And here's the values I'm using for the weapons. So without further ado, let's go ahead and give this build a spin. So we're here at the Arboreal's Nest. I decided to go here because this probably might be one of the more safer places to actually show off this build. So as you can tell, this build is mostly melee focused, and quite frankly, melee focused builds tend to be strong, but also tend to have their limits, and their limits tend to be very apparent when you're going up against flying enemies. You could try to remedy this by running rocket modules, like say the Boctals, but for this build, I decided to just run the Takumas because, well, Takumas tend to be pretty quick, which actually benefits melee builds because it allows them to actually get closer to the enemy. So ideally with this build, you kind of want to actually bide your time before actually attacking your opponent. And you also want to get really good at using Sabi as well, because the way you want to use the Sabi is you don't want to get close to your enemy. I failed again. One of those rare fail moments from Tango with this game. Also, now this guy's running. You know, I was thinking normally. But the way you want to use the Sabi is you kind of want to actually attack first and then boost into your enemy. So when you attack, there's a bit of a delay when you have to use a sword. So basically, when I'm about to swing, I don't have to swing immediately. I actually take a bit of a second before I actually do swing. And when you're actually in the middle of a swing, you kind of want to use your boost to get the maximum damage from the Sabi. That's generally how you want to use this, as such. It kind of takes a bit of practice to get used to, but once you get it down, you can do some pretty cool tricks with this. I also decided to bring out the Magatsu for this, because, well, we're running a Scarlet build, and, you know anything about Scarlet, she only uses swords. only swords. That's the whole reason why we're not even running your arms, because we kind of want to fit in with the whole Scarlet aesthetic. This particular build. Actually, you know what? This place might be a bad idea to tackle, because I just realized there's flamethrower enemies in this place. But with the Magatsu, you kind of want to charge up your weapon and then try to get a good swing. The nice thing with this build is you don't necessarily need to get a back attack on enemies, because you're not too reliant on BP. You generally just want to just hit them in general, and they'll probably go down in one hit. Probably. Although keep in mind, I am running a level 5 Magatsus and Sabis here. These enemies I might want to skip, probably. Well, I could try to rush them down, but that might be a bit risky. I'll just try to rush them down. Who are you? Take you out. Alright, that worked out well. A lot better than I thought it would. Also worked out pretty well. Alright, well, I suppose this build isn't entirely weak, although granted, jumping is going to be a problem with this build, because this build is quite too much of a jumper. Not too well of a jumper. Let's see here. And by the way, when you're going up against ranged enemies, especially powerful ones, go pop off your shield wherever you can. Let me go ahead and do this. So see how my shield's popped up? You generally want to do that just to keep yourself from getting, taking too much damage when you're getting close. Although, be very mindful about using the shield overlay, because if enemies are within your shield, they can hit you. So, in general, just be careful about getting too close to enemies when you have your shield overlay on. Make sure you're going to finish them in one strike if you're going to do that. Otherwise, I recommend just cutting the enemy as such. With a normal attack. And I should warn you, the shield overlay does in fact cost BP, so do be mindful about that. Actually, you don't really need to be too mindful, because you're not really using much in terms of BP with this build. You're not really using any firearms or such. You're kind of just using what you got, essentially, which is your swords. Your swords. But yeah, there's one thing I do recommend having with this build is simply just patience. I recommend having patience with this build, because yeah, with this build, you're going to want to be careful about with ranged enemies, especially with nymphs, because nymphs can wreck you pretty easily if you're up too close. On top of that, yeah, bosses, you're gonna have a bit of trouble with this build. If anything, this build isn't recommended for like fighting bosses or anything. It's kind of a gimmicky build in of itself. If you are planning on fighting bosses, I do recommend at least having like one ranged weapon, but that's about it. This to you. I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna nearly die. Holy crap! All right. Oh. As you can see, this build is kinda not very strong when it comes to certain enemies, especially when we're fighting them in a certain way. Do I wanna? Wait, he's retreating. That means I can do this. But yeah, as I said before, you kinda want to bite your time with this build. As you can see, this build isn't too particularly strong, because I lost quite a bit of health, despite having valves. Anyways, well, I suppose I can take on that elite. Try to take on that elite. Looking at it, I kinda wanna go for this. Yep. This elite should be a bit tricky to deal with, because he does have grenades, and my shields are in fact down. Like, you know what? I want to be cheesy here and try to get some heals off. Alright. Gonna be tricky, but I think I can do this. Okay, that was a little bit painful. Holy crap, I'm stuck on things. If I die at this build, this might be the last melee build I'll make. Rather, if I'm gonna make another melee build, I think I'm just gonna. Actually, awesome. There we go. We took down the elite, and that's gonna be that. Yeah, this build, well, it's a bit of a gimmicky build. You don't really have too much in terms of range support when you're using this build. If anything, you're heavily reliant on just using your Sabi and your Magatsu. You could use your Kumitsuhas to actually give you some protection, but at the same time, it's not gonna do very much against range targets in terms of damaging them. I will protect you against them from afar. Again, do be careful about getting too close with the shield overlay, because one, when you have your shield overlay on, you won't have your barrier on, which means they can actually hurt you if you get too close. But hopefully, once you do get close, you'll be able to give them the one to Sabi to the face. And Magatsu as well. But apart from that, yeah, it's pretty much just a gimmicky build. Yeah, mostly because you don't really have that much in terms of range options. Yeah, if you're going to get something like Barna, yeah, you're going to be in a bit of a pickle. At that point, I recommend just using a different build for that. But regardless, I think it's time for us to call it quits for this episode. So if you enjoyed this episode, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below if you have any builds you want to recommend or have any other questions about this build. So without further ado, this is Grippy Thank You signing off. Bye.